What is catastrophe? What actually is, or what are, things that happen in our life that just seem catastrophic? I don't mean like a Category 10 hurricane that destroys everything, although that's catastrophic. I'm talking about just life things. Things seem to be falling apart around us, and people seem to be rising up against us, and things just are not working like we think they're supposed to be working, and we find ourselves in this, all the doors are closed. This is happening. That's happening. I need this. I don't have that. What am I going to do? That kind of catastrophe. Catastrophe, good morning, by the way. It's still dark out. I have my two little baby puppies over here that are sleeping. They've had their time outside, and they came back in. They said, we're not through napping, Daddy. I got up at 5 and I heard him, Major, just kind of stirring around. So we've been outside a couple of times, and I was sitting here with Daddy this morning, and my computer, my Bible on my computer wasn't working right, and things just seemed to be out of sorts. It didn't just get right in the flow. And I was reminded of many, 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 many of these catastrophes that I have been in all through my life. Being in a state of wellness, being in shalom, is not just something when everything's going good. When catastrophe happens, when we find ourselves in this position of nothing going right, catastrophe is elevation. That's a paradox, but there are a lot of paradoxes in our Father's kingdom. And what I saw this morning, just a little while ago, sitting with Daddy, Big Daddy. He's big and he's my daddy. And basically what I was seeing was that these catastrophes that come, they just come. They're actually camouflaged elevations. Now, how do you see a catastrophe when this is just out of control and everything's sliding against you? How can you go, well, this is an elevation? It's easy, but it's hard. It's hard when catastrophes happen and they are happening and everything's going wrong, seemingly. It's hard to stop and turn our heart to the Father and say, here's another catastrophe, but my heart is toward you. You are my shield. You are the shield around me. You are my daddy. You are my Migdal Oz, Hebrew for tower of strength. And most of the time through my life, when these catastrophes happen, I've not done that because it was hard. But it's actually easy. Yeshua said, he repeated what Father said, my burden is easy. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. So it's hard to put the yoke on. It's hard in catastrophic circumstances to turn our heart toward our Father and know that He is our shield about us. And He is our tower of strength that we can climb up into and be well. Be in shalom. It's hard to do that, and yet it's easy to do that. As soon as we turn our hearts toward Him and lay all this catastrophic circumstances, just stop it, and we turn our heart toward Him, however lowly we feel, however hard it seems, when we just settle and turn and acknowledge our Father, Big Daddy, as our tower of strength, the shield about us, and humble ourselves like a little child. All of a sudden, something clicks, and you realize He really is our tower of strength. And these catastrophes are only disguised elevations. See, once we have the presence of heart to, in the midst of these times, turn our heart toward our Daddy and just listen to Him and acknowledge He is who He says He is, and we are who He says we are. And we humbly turn toward Him in the midst of catastrophe, and He settles us. Becomes elevation. Catastrophes are disguised or camouflaged elevations. They actually are tools to show us things in us. And if we will turn toward our Father, they become an elevation technique. They're actually good things. We don't like them when they come. But if we embrace Him, not the catastrophe, not the circumstances, stop the circumstances, lay everything down and turn our heart toward Him as His little child and just walk into that tower of strength, that fortress that He is. Again, He is who He says He is. And we are who He says we are. We're His little children. And catastrophes don't mean He has abandoned us. He's allowed elevation. Don't think it's strange when all these trials come against you. They're just steps. They're steps to a higher place. It's impossible to get to a higher place unless we find low places. In the low places, is where we find elevation, that we might dwell with our Father in his most high place, the secret place, the hidden place, the concealed, camouflaged place. So if you're in the midst of catastrophic circumstances, it's hard. Turn, humble, acknowledge who he is and who he says you are, and allow his shalom to cover you and his joy. Rejoice inside you. It's a new day. That means we can be renewed. And when we do that, the catastrophe becomes an elevated stone that we can step up onto. Woo! And just sit with our daddy. Dwell in his tent. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High gets to abide in the shadow of the Almighty, the All-Holder, the Mashiach, the King. We get to just dwell in his shadow, right beside Big Daddy, and be tutored, personally tutored. Catastrophe? No. Elevation. Be well.